Oh, good.
We're going chasing.
Hello there, and welcome to...
We're going chasing.
Hello, now, and welcome to...
We're going chasing.
Now, we have a lot on the agenda, lads, so we'll cut the chase and get straight down to the business.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of We're Going Chasing. We're on to our Wednesday preview, and again we've got Ash Symonds here from Only Fools Love Horses and Paul Callaghan from the Irish Field. Ash, what's the weather like over there? I know you're local there to Cheltenham. So you might give us some insight as to what the ground might be like.
Yeah, we'll start the weather watch early on, shall we? No, it's been raining today. We record on the Monday, and it's been raining today. Looking at sort of the weather forecast, you might be getting a day later this week as well. It's raining, and then potentially even sort of early week, festival week, might have a spot of rain. So, look, I know we were sort of speaking about this off camera, but I'd be shocked if this wasn't soft ground by the time we go off on the Tuesday. It's been fairly consistent, not like everyday rain, but it's been fairly like, you wake up one day, it's all right, wake up another day, it's raining, all right, but raining, and the water table's quite high, so it's just not draining as quickly as it usually does. Cheltenham does drain quite nicely, but yeah, I'd be shocked if it was not soft ground, to be honest.
Okay. Interesting. Because actually on Betfair at the moment, good to soft, I think is about 1.5.
What a Betfair now, eh?
Soft is second favourite anyway, but there could be a bit of value inside there for a fella like Cillian who wants to back on those markets. But we'll move on. We'll move on. We'll move on to the Bearing Bingham. And I think that's the first time I've ever referenced the race as the Bearing Bingham. I usually just stick to my ways and call it the Ballymore. But similar to the Supreme that we spoke about yesterday, we're probably looking at muddy enough waters here in terms of Ballyburn, Paul. It's hard to know with the way the exchanges are looking where he's going. But I suppose a similar question to yesterday. If he does go here, does he win? And if he doesn't, what does?
To be honest, unlike the Supreme, James, I haven't looked elsewhere. I think he will go here. I think this trip is his best trip. I think he'll win this. I think if he turns up in the Supreme, he'll win the Supreme. I think if he turns up here, bar with a clear round, bar disaster, I think he'll blow these out of the water. He's a serious engine. I think he's the real deal. Best price 7-4. If he turns up here, I think it'll be a question of how far.
Okay, interesting. Ash.
I've kind of been doing my studying on Ballyburn not turning up to this race, so I'm a bit different to Paul in this, but I'm gonna stick with that because I do think he probably look, no one knows, but I'd have him going down Supreme. So with Ballyburn out of the question, because I do think he'd win this race if he turns up. The two horses that I liked were Il Atlantique. Maybe being a little bit of an underrated horse because he sort of not disappointed, but was beaten by fairly unfancy Reading Tommy Wrong the last day in the Lawlers and Ace. But I thought he did quite well that day. Maybe he lacked a little bit of grit in the battle, but I still think he pulled away really nicely from the third. Both him and Reading Tommy Wrong pulled away from Lecky Watson. And just on a pure, collateral form, he put 7 lengths between himself and Lecky Watson. And Slade Steele only put half a length, or was it, or 3/4 length between himself and Slade Steele. And now I know Slade Steele may have improved as such, but there are people walking away convinced that Slade Steele was the Bearing Bingham winner after his second to Ballyburn. I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. And 5-1 at Atlantique, I'm seeing on my screen. I quite like that as a proposition. I think that 2 mile 5 of the Bearing Bingham might just sort of see him at his best potentially. He's a proper galloper now in the test of Cheltenham. I can see him working well. Each way wise, I think England have got 2 good chances in here in handstands in Gidley Park. I'd actually side with Gidley Park here. A lot of people are sort of cottoning onto handstands as a little bit of a preview night horse, but I think Gidley Park's done quite well. And just on that trials day form, he beat Lucky Place, so I fancy as a little bit of an outsider for the Martin Pipe. Isaac de Zobo, who's a 3 parts brother to Clan de Zobo, was back in third, and Johnny Who has got grade 1 form from the Shallow, was back in fourth. Even Chock-a-Block of Nicky Henson's is fair decent horse. That was 14 lengths back in fifth. And even beating Firefly has come out since and franked the form quite nicely. And he beat the Jukebox Man in a bumper who's since finished third, I think, in the Shallow. So yeah, I think all his form stacking up. He's a big horse. He is a big horse. He's a bit keen the last day, but I think if they can just settle him down, there was so much buzz about this horse pre-season, and hopefully he can sort of put in a nice round to frank that as such. So yeah, if you can get 5-1 about Atlantique and 14-1 about Gidley Park, 2 each way bets into the race, and what is a fairly open contest.
Yeah, I'd be on the same page as you there with Hill Atlantique. To be honest, I thought the Lawlers and Ace, he got to the front there very early, and he was almost a sitting duck there for reading Tommy wrong, and he was just worn down late. I think just with the race panning out slightly differently, slightly more favourable for Paul in the saddle, that, you know, Hill Atlantique would take a lot of beating. I suppose if Ballyburn did go out on the Tuesday and win the Supreme by 10 lengths, you know, then you'd really have to look at Slade Steele as well, you know, and he'd be sure to shorten. But, you know, I'd be similar thinking there with you on Ill Atlantique, to be honest. What about yourself, Cillian?
Yeah, I like 4 Irish novice hurdlers this year, like 4 real top ones. And unfortunately, there are only 3 races in Cheltenham. Ballyburn wins one, Reed and Tommy Wrong will win the Bartlett. And then it's a question of, do you want Slade Steele or Il Atlantique in the Ballymore? I do think Il Atlantique potentially more speedier than Slade Steele, but I just wonder, does he have the stuff? You know, does he really want it? And I know Slade Steele definitely wants it, but whether the other lad does, I'm not so sure. And I think at the prices, it pushed me towards Slade Steele. Of the English horses, I'd agree with Ash Gidley Parker. I think he's a grade 1 chaser next year. He's a smashing horse. I just wonder, is this a bit too soon? Is he a bit too raw? And is he going to run here, or will he go to the Bartlett?
I hope they run him here, to be honest. I think Bartlett.
Yeah, I don't think they need to run him in the Bartlett. Mind him for next year. Yeah, I think he's going to be a really nice horse next year, but I just think maybe that some of the Irish novices might be a bit more forward at the moment. I wouldn't like Mystical Power if he ran here, to be honest. Like I think it might suit him. I think this race would suit him better than the Supreme. But I still just wonder, is the likes of Slade Steele and Atlantique better? But yeah, at the prices, I'd be going with Slade Steele at the moment.
Looking forward then to the Brown Advisory. It's probably a race lacking in a lot of depth this year. American Mike, there's talk that he'll be supplemented for it, and he'd be a great addition to it. You know, he's ran very well at Navan this year. You know, and it's often said that those that run well at Navan will run well at Cheltenham. You know, just due to the way the course is and the stiff finish. But interestingly, listening to Icy on Spaces last night, he mentioned Fact to File, and he mentioned that from to the best of his knowledge, Fact to File is going to this race because JP has him backed, and not necessarily because he's Willie's choice for the race. JP has him backed, and to quote Icy, he'd make more off the bet than he would for winning the race, and I think you'd get about over 90 grand for winning the race. So I just thought that was interesting. Maybe they would prefer Fact to File over that shorter trip. Maybe he's not a real stout stayer. One that probably is a stout stayer, and one that you're quite keen on, Cillian, is Stay Away Faye. You know, ran very well at Cheltenham against Open Company Chasers in the Cotswold Chase there in January, only 3 lengths behind Capodanno, and you're still quite sweet on him, I presume.
Yeah, my theory is I'd say Capodanno will be favourite in this. Like, you know, I know he's not a novice, obviously, but like if Capodanno ran here, Capodanno would be favourite. So why is Stay Away Faye, who's beaten 3 lengths, giving him £3, double the price, more than Fact to File? I don't get it. Like I think there's a lot to be said for running a horse into Open Company. And like, look, he's a Bartlett winner. He was 2 from 3 over fences. Thought he'd do well to win at Exeter, and he beat Giovinco closely enough, I thought, in Sandown then. But yeah, I thought it was a fair performance the last day, and similar to Presenting Percy a few years ago, running in the Red Mills against Our Duke before the RSA. I think it's a good prep for a novice to sort of battle hard in them. And like the real whacker at the end of the day is the Brown Advisory winner from last year, and Capodanno is a grade 1 winner over fences as well. So like they're no back numbers, and that'd be where I'm thinking that if Capodanno ran here, he'd probably be favourite. So Stay Away Faye nearly should be too. For all I think Fact to File has a lot of potential. I don't know, do I want to back him at a short price?
What about yourself there, Paul?
I don't think I'll be backing him at even money, but I think Fact to File is the winner of this. I do like to take a favourite on, and any chance I can, but I can't see any reason to go against him. I can't see one that's going to be good enough to beat him. I think if American Mike does turn up here, I think he'll reverse the form. I thought he was very good at Leopardstown over the Christmas period. Jumped, travelled, he was sharp over his fences, very quick. He travelled strongly, and he had the job done some way from home. Then the last day was a race kind of with nothing at the Dublin Racing Festival. It was a disappointing turnout on that day. But yeah, I think fact to fight, he was so good over the Christmas period at Leopardstown. I think if he turns up here in the same form, he'll take the beating.
Yeah. I just wonder, is he that stout stayer? And obviously he looked brilliant over 2.5 miles and that, but I just personally have a few reservations. Go on.
He looks very straightforward. He
Yeah.
doesn't over race. He's very economical at his jumping. He's very slick over his fences. I just wouldn't see any reason. If he was a bit keen or could take on a fence here and there, I would have reservations about him. But touch wood, he seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, what about yourself, Ash?
I think this is a cracker of a race. It may be lacking depth behind the front three, but the front three makes up for it, I think, in my eyes. Like I wouldn't have a strong opinion on the race as such, because I could see any of the front three winning. I don't usually say that coming into a Cheltenham race. I always try to find a hole that's big enough to take on a horse that's towards top of the market. Fact of file, the way he was able to keep with the blistering pace set by Gallagher last time out and then go on and continue was seriously impressive. Serious engine behind the horse, but I'd be happy to let him win at evens. Stay Away Faye is a nice horse. I really do like him. He was an outsider coming into the Bartlett. He was sort of a bit of an underrated horse by Nichols and Cobden coming to the Bartlett, and he went in obliged at 18s. I can see him running a massive race here. Old course, 3 miles. You prefer on the new course for sure. So if I was deciding with one of the 3 here, it would actually be in the colours of Cillian's screen there, Monty Star for Barry Maloney and Henry de Bromhead. I thought he was really impressive at Punchestown last time out. They may have been quite slow early on, but when they did decide to pick it up going around the bend, they were going decent clip on heavy ground, and he just jumped beautifully. And he was going away from his fences really nicely as well. It's a bloodline that I love, but I just love Monolly and the Firm Footings bloodline from Tempest Bell. There's sort of just murmurs below the surface that Henry de Bromhead just really likes this horse. And look, it was a fair seasonal introduction behind Corbett's Cross over a trip too short, and he was always going to come on for it. He came on for it in spades. And 11-2 Monty Star. Of the 3, where I have them so closely knit together, I'll take the bigger price of the 3 at 11-2 here. So yeah, I could see any of the front 3 winning. Wouldn't be a strong opinion on it either, but Monty Star would be just the one for me.
Yeah, fair enough. And looking at the champion chase, Ash, is it very straightforward there too? El Fabiolo not too, it's obviously the RSA wasn't too straightforward, but El Fabiolo, is it that straightforward that El Fabiolo just goes and wins?
Yeah, I wish I could be able to pluck something like Zara at the Brave yesterday or Echoes and Rains, an each way alternative to the Fab, but I just can't. And even like John Bond's probably accordingly priced at 3-1 or 7-2, because you do have to see him bounce back from what he did. Although I did think I'd probably go on the glass half full on his last run. The mistake, a bit like Lottymouth when she got stopped by a stablemate in the juvenile race at Dublin Racing Festival last season. Like the way he had to pick himself up, dust himself off, and then go again around Cheltenham as well, around the outside, was seriously impressive. But I just side with El Fabiolo. I think there's a strong vibe that he's just better than John Bon, and no betting opinion unfortunately on the race, but I'd probably just keep it with the Fav.
Yeah, are we all in agreement there, lads?
Yep.
Yeah, I am. I'm not going to do what I said last year with Captain Guinness. I just think the ground isn't going to be there. But I think I'd like to see Edwardstone go from the front and see can he produce something like he did in the game spirit. But ultimately, El Fabiolo can probably whack 1 or 2 and still win, I'd say.
Yeah. I'd imagine that'll be the case, all right, to be honest. Looking at the cross-country chase then, and I know we mentioned yesterday just about it being an awful time to back horses really this time of year. I think the cross-country chase just sums it up. Delta Work 3-1, Galvin 7-2, 4-1, Cocoa Beach 9-2, conflated somewhere between 3s and 4s, and 9-2 in places, and obviously Manella Indo at the top of the market. All very condensed there. And you can be sure that there'll be bigger prices there, and a lot of them really as we come closer to the time, and some will be shortening and a lot will be drifting out a bit too. You know, but it's just a sign really that now is an awful time to be getting involved with the markets, you know, but it's good to form an opinion at this stage too. Cillian, I won't start with you here because I know where you're going, but Paul, I'd be interested to hear your take on it.
Yeah, not a race I'll be getting stuck into. If I was having a bet, probably Foxy Jacks. Galvin is a horse I like a lot, but he was well held by Foxy Jacks here before. And I think if Foxy Jacks gets out on the right side of bed, he has quite a quirky character. I remember Johnny Moore had a couple of good spins off him, but I remember backing him at a big price at Gorham Park. Could have been in the TSs one day. And he ran well for a long way, but I think once a couple came past him, he got in close to one, and that was it. Spat the dummy out. He didn't want to know. And I think he gave Johnny a right slap round entry then in the top him maybe. But when he's on a going day, he's a lot of ability now. But I think if he gets out on the right side of bed here, I think he'll go close again.
Yeah, he's a horse. Myself and Cillian are big fans of here on the podcast, but a complete monkey. You know, he could do anything really. That's the danger. He could decide to take 3 or 4 horses out of it there too if he wanted, you know, and he could totally ruin the race. But I'd love to see Foxy Jacks go and do the business. Ash, is it a race do you have a strong opinion on?
No strong opinion really, because I'd probably, if it was slower ground, I'd probably side with Indo, and if it was better ground, I'd probably side with Galvin. I thought the run from Galvin in the Boyne Hurdle was very good, and when he was held by Foxy Jacks, it was a handicap, so I'd be happy to see him sort of go level weights against them, just at a massive price. It's just a horse that I love, and I'd like to see if he turns up, but he ran 18 days going to point, ran actually towards the back end of February, so it'd be 18 days gap between his point-to-point run and cross country. But at the age of 14, Singing Banjo is a horse I've won so much money off in the past, just from him winning at Punchestown at 80 to 1 and 33s, and he's a cracker of a horse. But he has form around here, like he was second to back on the lash in a handicap around the cross country course. It's sort of a stone's throw away from when he was second to Delta Work off level weights, but jockey was claiming 7 in the saddle, and he was only beaten a short head that day. That was in November 2022. Just want a massive price. If he turns up, he'll probably give you a run for your race and just see how you go, really. But yeah, no real strong opinion. It's not a race I tend to get stuck into.
Yeah, Cillian, can Singing Banjo beat Manel Indo?
And no, I hope not. For all that Indo shouldn't be running here, or Delta Work, or Galvin, or Conflated if he does throw up. I think he is the most likely winner. Like he looked like he was a good winner at the Grade 3 in Punchestown earlier in the season. Look, he's out of his depth in Grade 1s at this stage, and like Jesus, so he sparked really well back to life the last day in the cross country. And like I'd seen a couple of videos of him schooling back in the November meeting, and I think he looked really, really good, and yeah, I think he's going to be very hard beat. I don't know where I bet him at 7 to 4 either, but it doesn't look like Conflate it's going to be there. He's a big price on the exchanges, and rightly so. He's still able to shoot, well able to run the Ryanair or a Gold Cup. So he should go there. But I think Cocoa Beach, I'd say, could be the biggest danger. He was the Tri-Town winner earlier in the season, ran a really good race at Aintree after that, and he showed good aptitude for the cross country course in Punchestown the last day. I know it's a bit more of a testing course than Cheltenham is, but I'd say Cocoa Beach could be the danger, but hopefully Indo gets the job done, and that's the last we'll see of him then, because he well deserves a long and happy retirement, I think.
Yeah, and I suppose my take on the race is again, it is hard to split a lot of them there at the top of the market, but if there was one that I'd be totally against, it would be Galvin, really. You know, he's had 3 runs over that cross-country course at Cheltenham, bet by Delta Work twice, bet by Manel Indo once, and even as Paul mentioned, well held by Foxy Jacks as well. So like to see him there as short as 7 to 2. You know, and I know he ran well last time in the Boyne Hurdle, but I couldn't have him, to be honest. The final race then on the Wednesday is the bumper, and to be honest, it's not a race that I ever give too much thought to. I'm not a fan of it at all, really. I like jumps racing, and these horses don't interest me really until they start jumping hurdles. But like, look, it's some people do enjoy it. The Yellow Clay is a horse that Harry Swan gave a nice mention to, and indeed he gave a nice mention to all of Gordon's. And Gordon has a great hand in it. But Ash, do you see anything there in the English camp, I suppose, that side of the Irish Sea that could upset a lot of those classy horses that Gordon has, and indeed Willie Mullins?
Yeah, I do. I actually like two from over here to take on the Irish. First one and the main one is Quebecois for Paul Nicholls. I know he's got Tishan, which is this sort of big hype horse, fantastic times point to point, bolstered up by a street in his run. But Quebecois has done exactly the same as him on the track. Bolstered up in an extra bumper, did really nicely, and you get the vibe from the yard that Paul Nicholls had one stage in his media morning where he turned to Clifford Baker, who sort of stood there off to one side. Clifford hadn't said a word all morning, and then Paul just turns to him and goes, "We've always loved this horse, haven't we, Clifford?" And Clifford just goes, "Yeah, we have." And that's the only thing we heard from Clifford all morning. And it's just like, you pick up those things. And I think the Quebec is quite a nice horse. And they've always said, we're going to go straight to champion bumper. Half the fact to give, Connections just some hope going into the festival, because they pop up somewhere else and he gets beaten, and then the hope's over. At the same time, they're coming here, fresh horse. They're taking their time with him. And I have to send my thanks to Megan Nichols, who went on ITV Racing and said, my long shot of the festival is Quebecois for the bumper, because that saw him come in from 33s to 16s. So that's price gone there slightly. But look, he's still a big enough price each way wise to have a go. So Quebec was one of them, and the other one actually is a bit bigger. It's Brecon Castle for Ben Brookhouse. I really like Let It Rain before she was ruled out of this race, but on pure form lines, Brecon Castle had to give £11 away in that Ascot bumper. Was carrying 11.6, while Let It Rain was carrying 10.9. And he's a fast horse. Like, he's set the second or third fastest final furlong at Cheltenham this season. He's a really smart one. I think if Ben Brookhouse had his way, he would have been going hurdles with him. And he's pretty much he let on that he's a Grade 1 novice hurdler, but owner Roger Brookhouse kind of wanted to keep him to bumpers and keep his sort of feet on the ground this season, and then go novice hurdling next season. I would not be surprised if this horse gets into Grade 1 company or graded company next season, a novice hurdler. He's even beaten Firefly in a bumper around Cheltenham, who's since gone on to better things over hurdles. So those would be my two. There's word on the street that the 6 Mile Bridge for Ben Pauling's a really, really smart horse. I don't tend to back horses just purely on word, but like he won at Sandown last time out, and apparently he's quite smart, but that's why I'm not putting him as a main fancy, but just sort of want to voice it out there, because he has been back slightly, and apparently the Pauling lot absolutely love him. So yeah, kind of two there from Britain, and one from Britain that could be quite nice. So yeah, we'll take on the Irish. What's the Irish record in the bumper anyway? It must be horrendous, surely.
Well, that's interesting, because to be honest, I know nothing about any of them horses. Like, if I don't follow Irish bumpers that well, I certainly don't be watching them in Exeter and that. But interesting to hear an angle there on some of those English horses. Paul, what's the best of the Irish?
I like the favourite, Julien Dudarry, who was pretty good at Fairyhouse. I was working at Fairyhouse today. Yeah, not bad.
You must have been working. No, you must have been working on it.
No. Look, it's French, my second language, huh? No, look at it. I was at Fairyhouse. I was working at Fairyhouse today. He won his bumper, and he was very quick. Now, I suppose Harry Swan maybe made up, not knowing, I suppose, it's the first time he rode him on the track, was maybe made up his ground, a lot of ground in a short space of time, and used up plenty of fuel, because it looked like he was going to draw right away from the field. And in the end, he maybe didn't win he won easy enough, and he was pretty impressive, but probably didn't win as far as you might say if you pause the race a furlong out. But there was a right good buzz about the Winnerton closure after that, when he was coming back in, and Connections, Cheltenham Festival bumper was mentioned back then. So he's a horse that's obviously held in high regard. He excites Connections. He didn't disappoint at Leopardstown over the Christmas period on his next start. And I think at 6-1, I'd have a fun bet on Julien Dudarry. Very
good. Cillian?
Yeah, I think Gordon is going to win the bumper. I don't know who is going to win it though. I'd be in agreement with Paul. I'd say Julien Dudarry would be the one if you put a gun to my head, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Yellow Clay or Romeo Coolio did it as well. one horse I definitely wouldn't be backing, and I really like taking him on is Tishan. I think he was good in Exeter, but I do think that if he was a play slay option, I probably would, to be honest. I wouldn't like him at all, really, to be honest. For all, he probably would be a nice chaser down the line. Yeah, I actually 6 Mile Bridge Ash is one that I remember seeing him when he won on debut as well, and he looks really nice. And there's been a few murmurings about him, all right, but yeah, I'd say Jalan Dudry for me.
Okay. We'll move quickly onto the handicaps there. We've 2 handicaps there on the Wednesday, the Coral Cup and the Grand Annual. Coral Cup is probably one of the most difficult handicaps of the week, as far as I'm concerned. But we'll just run through you there, and we'll just see if you have any strong fancies for either of those. Paul, we'll start with you there.
I'd take a chance on Sonny Gino for Paul Nicholas. 5 places on offer if you have an E2A bet. Best price at 33-1. Sonny Gino was a good third in a competitive handicap at Aintree last year off a handicap mark of 133. Now rated 143. He did disappoint last time out, but I think he could bounce back at a price here. I'd imagine Connection's a lot to claim off that mark. But yeah, Sonny Gino, 5 places on offer. I think it's a good E2A squeak here.
Okay, Ash?
Yeah, probably one that Cillian likes as well, but this built by Ballymore in the Coral Cup. I think it's quite a nice horse. He's not a typical Martin Brazel horse, and the fact that he's been sort of put away in a handicap somewhere and then pops up at the festival sort of well backed and scores on the day. He's won 2 maiden hurdles, both of them by 12 lengths, and the last one was sort of really impressive. Looked like he was going nowhere, and then JJ Slevin just gave him a little reminder, and he came well round and went like a rocket ship to the line. Don't know what the form's were for at all, but look, it's a bit of crumb of comfort as he was second to Paf de Roux and a fairly decent Gavin Cromwell horse in a bumper. So you might want it quite testing. So I'd maybe just on this selection, if it does turn up soft ground, he might have a better chance than if it was a bit better ground, but he'd be the one there. But if he does turn up, I don't know where he's turning up, so I'll sort of mention him for this race, but the same reasoning applies to the Martin Pipe. Lucky place for Nicky Henderson, wherever this horse goes. Could be Coral Cup, could be Martin Pipe for my betting slip in my pocket. Really hope he goes to the Martin Pipe. But if he does turn up here, I'm going to have to, I'll be back in 2 for sure. Thought his run behind Gidley Park last time out was seriously impressive. I think he's a graded horse masquerading in the handicap here. And his second to Golden Ace, giving a stone away in weight at Taunton is really good form now. So I give him a chance in the Coral Cup as well.
Okay, and Cillian, to wrap it up?
Yeah, built by Ballymore, hopefully banish the memories of those 2 second placed efforts for Martin Brazel the last couple of years, Fast or Slow, and what was last year's one?
An epic song last year.
An epic song, yeah.
I remember it vividly in my mind. It's ingrained in my brain, those last 2 Coral Cups.
Sickener seeing fucking Langer Dan coming. I can't get over it. Yeah, I think he's the right chance, and I'd be 99% sure he'll run here. JJ Slevin rides the horses. Like, good conditional jockey is going to be hard to find this festival. So I think it's the logical one to put him in the Coral Cup with JJ who rides him. So that's fair enough. I think Ballyadam at a bigger price. I'm surprised he's getting it. He's getting the trip. He's getting further these days than he used to. Like one time he was getting a mile 5. And he was just falling into a hole. I remember County Hurdle a couple of years ago, the Aidan Coleman had the head cam on, and like he traveled into a breeze, like, and just, he just wasn't good enough. But he's getting a bit further these days, and that sort of 20-1 there, he might be one that could pop up. And I know Jane Mangan, was it Jane Mangan? No, Cathal Burns at a preview night I was at gave a fair mention to Brazil in this race. It's he got I watched it back afterwards. He got quite enough ride out the back in the DRF, and I think he could. He looks like he could run here. Yeah, that was over 2 miles in the Liffey, I think, and yeah, it's going to be his second run since he was gelded as well. So he's an interesting one. Obviously, won over on the old course before as well. So that's one for the Coral Cup.
Yeah. Interestingly, I actually like Brazil too, up in trip. I just think that he'll appreciate that step up in trip, and he was actually the one that I had for the handicaps on the Wednesday as well. So interesting to hear that angle on it from the preview night. Just finally to wrap things up, so lads, we'll get your best bet for the Wednesday of the Cheltenham Festival. Ash, we'll start with yourself.
I mentioned just one for the Grand Annual, if that's all right.
You can, of course. Yeah.
Actually, it's going to be. I'm cheating here. It's two. Pinkerton for Noel Mead ran a good race behind Imagine on Chase debut this season. Then was third to Mr. Policeman, and just nothing went for him the last day. But I think he's better than what he is, and I think he's better than a marker 138 for sure. So Pinkerton in there, and it's last chance saloon for San Segal for me. He'll probably get in the race, which is nice, and he should have won at Ascot earlier in the season, beating Boot Hill and Fred Arms and stuff, but he fell at the last. So if he turns up here, which I think he should do, I think just a manic field of a Grand Annual, I think he could really relish that. So that'll be San Segal and Pinkerton, both 20-1 in the Grand Annual. Best bet for the Wednesday, guys, it's tough. It is really quite tough. I'd go with. Oh no, I'm going to go with.
I'll give you a second. To think about it.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought that I'd included the Grand Annual earlier on. Paul or Cillian, did you have anything there for the Grand Annual, or are you happy to move on?
I think Madara, if turning up here, good winner of the new course in December at Cheltenham, and was very good at the Dublin Racing Festival. James Reevely came over, especially from France, to ride. Done the weight as well. It was quite light. Jimmy didn't have much of a saddle underneath him now that day, and but yeah, no better man, James, to hunt one round. Pretty straightforward. Madara. James is a good horseman. I'd imagine he'll line up handy enough. If they're going too quick, he'll drop in maybe fifth or sixth. And if they're not going quick enough, he'll drop the hands and let him roll. But Madara in that one.
Okay. What price do you know roughly?
About 12-1.
12-1. Nice price. Cillian?
Yeah, if he runs in this, I think he will. Sapphire for Gordon Elliott. Do you think
he'll go in, not the plate? I am down as potential plate horse, but
yeah, I'd say him and San Felicia might be split up, and San Felicia will be in the plate. It'd be my thinking on it. You can ask Rob Atchison tomorrow; he might confirm it for you. But I think Sapphire a go here and San Felician in the plate, and I think his run behind Quilixios the last day and was very good, and there is definitely a scope for within his mark as well. He's a very good jumper. He went off 13-2 favourite in the Martin Pipe last year. Look, everything went wrong for him and he ended up being pulled up. But look, he's a good horse, and I think he's about 14-1 shot there with Sky's sort of 12s the rest then. So he'd have half a chance. And look, if Quilixios was to run well in the Arkle, you'd see him a lot shorter price on the day as well.
Okay, good man. Ash, have you made your mind up?
I'm going to have to go for Quebecois in the bumper. I do really like him, and I will go for Quebecois in the bumper. Okay,
very good. At a nice price. Paul?
Best bet is Ballyburn in the 130. The barring Bingham, is it? James?
If he goes, the
Ballyburn. If he goes there, Ballyburn wins.
Okay. Cillian?
Captain Guinness in the Champion Chase. That was a joke. Sorry. Built by Ballymore in the Carl Cup.
Okay. And I'm going to take Paul on, although realistically I won't be taking him on in a sense because only one of them will go there. But I'd imagine only one will go there, but I'd say Little Antique. I reckon Ballyburn will go to the Supreme, and I think Little Antique at 5-1. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't be getting involved at this stage. I'll be waiting until next week, and he won't be 5-1 when we know who's going where. But whatever price he is, as long as Ballyburn isn't there, he'd be my idea of a nailed on winner on the Wednesday, to be honest.
I'd agree with you if Ballyburn doesn't go. Very much, I would agree with you there.
Yeah. But look, that wraps it up. That wraps up day 2. Paul and Ash, thanks again for your time. We very much appreciate it. We've got great insight there from the pair of you. Ash, we'll probably see you over there at some stage. I'm sure we'll bump into each other in 131 or the likes. Our Pop World is Cillian's main hunting ground. So if you do venture inside there, you'll probably bump into us there as well. And sure, Paul, the very best of luck for the week. I hope you're lucky and you're not too busy inside there in the Irish field getting the ads in for the following Saturday. But again, lads, thanks very much. We appreciate it. All the best.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Not lads.